Okay, so I want to go back a little bit here with the little bit more of your day-to-day life in the lighthouse. Can you describe a basic day?
Well, the day was as we wanted it. No, no regimen.
Okay.
We didn't have to all dress. We didn't have to all dress up and have it wear a hat in a certain way and have everything pressed or whatever, because you're living on isolated circumstances.
Hmm.
And we didn't have any set of time. We woke up when we woke up, but we did wake up early anyway. And anything out of the ordinary, we had to go check it out.
Hmm.
And we took turns, as I said earlier, doing the cooking
Hmm.
and the washing of the Jesus. And as the bosun's mate or seaman, my job on the light was uh, taking care of the superstructure, painting and chipping all the rust and anything had to do with deck work. Bosun's mate job is.
How often did you have to chip and paint?
Well, you did it when you wanted,
Oh,
but
okay.
you did it quite often because you got bored otherwise. I mean, some of the guys would fish off the deck, catch sharks or any number of types of fishes. My
Okay, so
is in
uh,
my lap right now.
it's okay. So, can you talk a little bit about the structure itself? You walked in through the main door, and then you had the four compartments. Now, what was the access to get up to the light itself? Was that interior? Or was that
Tube was in the center,
okay?
and then the entrance was from our
Okay.
quarters, and it was just a spiraling steps going right up to the top. And I don't remember how many steps, but it was quite a few.
Hmm.
It's
Now,
another story too.
okay.
One day we had, I think it was three airline stewardesses come down from Miami that were with the Eastern Airlines.
Mhm.
They thought it was quite the thing to be able to go out to a lighthouse.
Sure.
So they're all wearing bathing suits. And so then they wanted to see the light. So this one gal that was with me precedes me up the stairway. And of course, they're real steep.
Hmm.
You're actually underneath of her as you're going up. And anyway, she's getting more nervous the more she got up to the top. And then she started to sweat. We finally got to the top. And then you have a little deck there around the lens. And so she laid out on that and got her breath back and
Hmm.
everything. Then she began to take the view when she got calm, cool, and collected.
Hmm.
And then a few minutes later came time to go back down. That was another story. She didn't want to go back down. She was afraid to go down. So here I had to go down in front of her and back her down all the way down those curling steps.
Sure.
An unusual
How
one.
do you remember
Another
how?
time we had an admiral come out and visit us. And so I had to pipe him aboard.
Uh-huh.
And we all had to stand up, we put our dress clothes on and hats and everything, which we never wore, but we had one for him. And of course,
Sure.
he had all the braid on his hat and all that. So he wanted to see the light, everything. So one of the other guys took him around to show him the different things. But then I took his hat and put it on my head and took a picture of myself wearing the admiral's hat. So it was very informal out there in the light.
Yeah, apparently. Do you remember how wide that tube was that went up to the top?
I'd say probably about 6 foot, right up the center. I mean, that was it. They
Sure.
were curling around. They didn't take up a lot of space, and then
Sure.
just up the
Just a post and the stairs coming off of it. Okay. Now, the lantern itself, was there an access port out? Was there a door in the lantern room to get out? Was there an observation deck up top there also?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. On the very top of the light, there was a railing going around out there, so we could clean the glass on the outside as well.
And how
Not
often would you
yes,
do
that's
that?
the outer glass, not the prism. The prisms are inside,
Yeah.
but the outer ones protect for weather.
Hmm.
So, if you look at the panes of glass, two of them were painted or stained red.
Hmm.
And the point being that ships out at sea, if they saw red coming from the light, they knew they were in trouble and to move
Hmm.
away from it because that indicated they were going in towards the land. So the white clear light was only heading out to the sea.
How often would you have to clean the glass outside, and how often would you have to clean the actual lens
Well, there
itself?
wasn't any set regimen. I mean, that was it. We made it as we wanted it. Every time where you say, well, it's 2 o'clock, you got no, because the glass was protected. It was clean all the time. And
Hmm.
then there were four bulbs on the light. And when one light would burn out, another would automatically rotate around and turn on.
Hmm.
So you had four options there before they really needed service. But we obviously would replace the light as soon as it burned out. But that was the option you had in case of an emergency.
Did you ever clean the lens yourself?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember exactly what the process was for that?
Oh, it's like window cleaning. I mean, you use the soft cloth, so one scratching and everything, and wind like Windex or something to
Hmm.
clean the glass because they were pebbled on an angle.
Hmm. Yeah,
So you
because
could
like
between each one of the glasses they go around,
yeah, we at 'cause I volunteer with Hillsborough Inlet, and we clean our lens twice a year, and so we use distilled water and isopropyl alcohol. So I just didn't know if you guys use the same things back then. For you actually use something different.
No, that lens, the prism, is now down there in Key West, down there in historical. I went down and looked at it one day a few years ago. Brought back a lot of memories seeing it there, but feeling bad that it was sitting there on the ground instead of being up
Yeah,
supposed to be. And then
yeah.
seeing the whole lower deck torn away. That deck was. I'm not sure if how thick the planks were. I don't remember the 2 inches or 4 inches, but they were, I think, probably closer to 4 inch timbers. Big. We never had to replace any. It never wore out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it had to be 4 inch by 10 foot or whatever. The two there were paint lockers are also there.
Okay, that was all below.
Storage, you can see them on the pictures that you look at today.
Okay, let's go back to the hurricane. When you were on the lighthouse during the hurricane, did you stay inside the quarters? Did anybody venture up to the top during
No,
the? No,
stay,
everybody.
no,
Okay.
care of itself. I mean, stay locked in, as I mentioned earlier. All the
Mhm.
hatches are bolted down. You can't move.
So okay. So there's a door even to the cylinder.
Everything is sealed. Like I said, you can't see anything. You're just listening and thinking. I mean, to say,
Mhm.
I hope everything holds. But it always did.
Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. Fresh water, getting fresh water out there. You had a special way to do that. Can you describe that?
Well, we had a ship from Key West come up with water, and they would fill the two tanks, which again you can see on any picture of the light. You can see the silhouettes of the big tanks. That's where the water was. And then on top of the housing where we lived, there was a gutter going around, just like your own houses have gutters around
Hmm.
the edge of the roof. Well, the water would hit that and be collected, would run down certain tanks in the bottom, and
Hmm.
that would retain rainwater in addition to what was brought into us.
Now, did you ever have to clean those water tanks out, or was
So
that no?
they were sealed.
Electronics. How did you keep your electronics running there from all the salt air? How did you keep them from corroding?
Well, everything was away from salt air. I mean, the only thing exposed out to salt air was the hand cranked winches. Everything else was inside. I mean, all electronic. In fact, they didn't have the word electronics
Sure.
in those days. We didn't have a television. I mean, we
Did you
didn't even have
ever?
a freezer. That's another thing that did occur while I was there. We got a freezer. We
Did you
went
have a radio?
around then we bought ice cream by 2.5 gallon containers and stuck it down in the freezer. We dip into the ice cream. We had one funny experience with Hoop. And the reason I said he like Mickey Rooney, Andy
Hmm.
Hardy type, when he came aboard, he was coughing. So we started calling him Hoop like whooping cough.
Oh, okay.
That was where I got the name Hoop. So he was Hoop till the day he left, which was semi-sweet because he was due to get out, and he asked me, "Do you think I ought to ship over or get out?" And I said, "Well, it's up to you." I said, "But you seem to like the Coast Guard life. I'd say ship over." Well, that would turn out to be a mistake. I heard later that he committed suicide down in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
So that was
Jeez.
sad. But anyway,
Very.
this one day he had just gotten an advancement in his rating, and we were up in our galley, all sitting
Mm-hmm.
around the big table there, and I had made a cherry pie, and we had ice cream and cigars. Never got an increase in your rate. You always had to hand out, just like fathers having babies, hand out cigars. So you had to all pull away. Well, he didn't smoke, and I didn't either, except for occasional. And but anyway, he was sitting in the one chair, and Mac McVeigh, which is one that introduced me to the light in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and myself. That was the three of us, and the pie and the cake. I mean, the pie and the ice cream, and the cigars. Well, Hoop started puffing away, and he's got one leg dangling over the arm of the chair, and really feeling on top of him. I just got my new rate. And then he began to slow down. The feet weren't kicking anymore like they were. And then they got to the point they weren't kicking at all. And then all of a sudden, he jumps up out of a chair, runs out to the rail, and then vomits.
Oops.
Of course, since the vomit is on the lower deck is further out than the upper deck, he vomited. He was just vomiting on the deck. So we made him go down and clean it up.
Did you have a radio there at the time? Yeah.
Yeah. Our favorite song was "Shrimp Boats Is a Comin'."
Shrimp boats is a common?
Never
Never heard that. No.
Boats Is a Comin'. And then our favorite mystery writer was Mickey Spillane. And so we would read those books and so forth as a part of our pastime.
Mm-hmm.
But Betty Grable, they were our movie stars and so forth. Betty Grable and somebody else. But anyway, she was our pinup. So anyway, basically that's it. Other than things I can think of later, or you bring out by questioning, I can answer more.
Yeah, you recently told a story about the boat one time where there was an accident where the hook failed.
Yeah, they had. Remember, I told you it was a double ender. No square stern to it or rear end of it. It's just like a whaleboat, but there's a hook on the bow, another one on the stern, and then you have these ropes or lines coming down from the block and tackle type situation that were attached to the winch. But they go up and they come down to the boat, and then you take this pelican hook, which is called that because it had a long beak on it, and then that would snap. Well, the one broke on the bow end at one time as I was being hauled up out of the water,
Mm-hmm.
maybe about 8-10 feet, no more than that. It snapped. Well, the bow dropped right down like that, almost vertically, and
Mm-hmm.
I was here. Well, the engine hatch was right here, and the cabin was forward, right up there. Well, I was slammed against the forward little cabin, and that's why I got hit all across the chest and across the thighs. But I didn't go overboard because I was able to grab onto that. If it was the other way, if it dropped the other way, well, then I could have been thrown right into the water. I understand a young man was killed there doing basically the same thing about 3 years after I left, I guess it was.
Really?
He drowned. They didn't. A couple of days before they found him, and it was his own brother who found him.
Oh.
And but things did happen, I mean, so he always had to be on guard no matter what you did.
Sure.
Didn't have much option, and so that was it. So we were able to get another pelican hook and get squared away again. Then I was able to climb up the ladder
Mm-hmm.
and use the crank, which was replaced in later years by electrical winch. But we did the old-fashioned way. And once we got the boat secure, there was no problem. It was just that terrifying moment, so to speak.
When you were describing the way the layout was, did you leave the windows open at night for a cross breeze, or how was it well ventilated in there?
There were no windows.
So there was nothing.
No, you had French doors.
Okay. So did
Six panes, 2, 4, 6 panes, and the lower half was wood, but it was just French doors. They opened this way. They opened that way. Then the hatch from outside, the iron ones came out and closed down outside. But that was it. You opened the hatches and then let the breeze blow in.
Was there typically a good breeze out there?
Beg your pardon?
Was there typically a good breeze out there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Always a breeze blowing out there.
Because otherwise, the humidity would have been absolutely brutal.
No, we didn't even hear all these words in those days. Really, we accepted life for what it was. I mean, we didn't have everybody to tell, oh, you're not getting your share. You're not doing this. You shouldn't do the other. Everything you should, you shouldn't. We enjoyed life. So I never had any bad days out there in the light.
Which was going to be my final question. Do you look back at that as a fond time?
Sure.
Yeah. Would you do it again?
At the present, I'd do it, but I wouldn't be able to do it physically because my legs wouldn't handle it. Legs tire out quickly.
Yeah.
The rest of the body is fine, but my legs are the spot. I get severe pain in my legs when I try to do too much work with the legs.
Gotcha.
In the light, you're always going up or down.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I thank you for your time and all this knowledge. This is great. I loved every second of this. And I thank you so very, very much for doing this.
Well, you're quite welcome, Ralph. It's my pleasure. I enjoy talking about life.
If you come up with any more stories, let me know. I definitely want to put them out there.
Hey, can you see?
You get your dog on there.
Yeah, you're on TV.
That's right. You're the one making all the noise. I had to close my door to keep my dog out. Otherwise, she'd been bugging me the whole time.
What to do now? How about that?
All right.
She's my baby.
What's your dog's name?
Heidi.
Heidi. Okay.
She's anything but a lady. She is tough.
Yeah.
I've had 5 Dobermans, but she's been the toughest one I've had to handle in my life. Not because of viciousness, but because she wants to be the boss.
Okay.
Really?
Sure.
You're like sitting. Oh, sit down a minute.
When I'm ready.
Yeah. And then at night, you see that nose. She pokes her nose at me.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go to bed at night, she waits for me every single night. I get into bed, and her bed's right next to mine. Hers is a cushion it's a air foam mattress about that big, built for dogs.
Okay.
Right next to my side of the bed. Well, I pull the sheet and covers back, and I go and get in bed, and she stands there waiting for me. And as soon as I get in, I pull the cover over my head. As I do that, that's as soon as she comes charging up and gooses me with her nose as hard as she can goose me. And repeats it. And then I say, oh, who did that? Who did that? Who did that? And she's watching. Her chin is resting over the edge of my bed, watching me do all this. She's getting a big kick out and her tail going loose like that.
That's awesome.
You did that. Yeah, you know I'm talking about you. Know that nose right there, don't you? Yeah. That nose.
That's great.
Anyway, she's my buddy, so that's it. I'm by myself, so
Well,
I'm in the mountains and the woods, and I have to have something. She's scared the hell out of me, and yet she's a pussycat.
Yeah, I bet she does scare people.
Yeah. She's the smallest one I've ever had. I've had 5 of them, and she's the smallest one of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But all the dogs are great. Of course, being a veterinarian, I wouldn't have dogs that would bite. She goes through the motion she's going to bite, and that's what I want, back off until I tell you to come in, But all my dogs have been good. I always told my clients, I say, if you have a dog, they would tell me when I go put my tail in. Oh, you don't have to worry, he won't bite. I said, lady, I'm sorry, ma'am. The only dog that won't bite is a dead dog. I said, think about that. Well, you put him on the table. Oh, he might bite me. You're the owner. Well, if you're the owner, and he's gonna bite you, he'll bite me. I wrote a book called Shenanigans. It's all about my experiences as a small animal practitioner.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't sell it. I sold it, but unfortunately, I ran out of money, and I wanted to get reprints. I finally they will get enough money to get reprints, and they said, "Well, this was printed on quad prints, quad plates. I mean,
Okay.
a quad plate was, but a quad plate is where they have a plate like this in 4 sections, just like I was saying, the housing on the light
Mm-hmm.
section. Well, they had 4 pages on this thing, but each page was for different books, not yours. Yours is only 1/4. So if I wanted to have more production of my book now, I'd have to pay for all these. So therefore, my book's been in limbo for all these years. We didn't mention this when we were talking, but did you see the whole thing? That old man there was a retiree from the New York Shipbuilding Corporation in Camden, New Jersey, and he was down there on our boat dock, and he was sleeping there as he would do, and quite a character. And I really enjoyed him. In fact, he was my older father. I had problems with my own dad, unfortunately, with alcohol.
Mm.
And but he'd be down there all the time, and he huffed and he puffed when he walked. And but he had a hell of a personality, really nice.
What was his name?
And Lou Malloy. So when I went into service, I got out of the Coast Guard boot camp on September the 12th, in 1950, and I was planning to get home to see him because he was my inspiration.
Wow.
In fact, one day, some of these guys were so-called boat enthusiasts that would brag all the time about how much they knew about boats. He said, "Okay, wise guy." He said, "What's the line of declension in a boat?" Huh? Declension. Well, the line of declension was actually when you were building a ship or a boat on a ways, on shore, on a ways, it's built on an angle, slide in the water, right? Well, you want the stack and everything on deck to point like that. Use a plumb or what the hell am I trying to think of now?
Plumb line?
Level.
Yep.
You got this angle right here.
Mm-hmm.
That is the angle of declension.
That's interesting.
So whenever boats are built, they have to be built with this angle, not this. It's going to be this angle to allow it to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
So if they build it this way, it would get in the water. So that is an angle of declension. But what really got me after just 3 days before I was due to get out of the boot and go home to see him, he died.
Oh, geez.
He was only 69 years old.
Really?
Yeah. And this is what changed my life right there. He was in the motel across the street, and he didn't answer the door that one. He was always, every day, regular clockwork, he came down at the dock.
Mm-hmm.
Lunch there and so forth, and watch the boats come in with the fish and all that. So this particular day, he didn't show. Well, next day, he still didn't show. So then somebody said, "We better check on him." Well, I went over and banged on the door, didn't do any good. And so then he called the owner of the motel, said he came with a master key, unlocked it, and they found him dead.
Mm.
But this is the moment. How did they find him? He was sitting at the kitchen table with the book open. He was learning until the moment he died.
Wow.
That's what taught me. Because up until then, I didn't give a damn about it. So I graduated lowest in my high school, grade school. I don't give a damn.
Mm-hmm.
Even in third grade, the teacher had marks on my report card. Richard does not
Apply himself.
apply himself. That was always it. And
Yeah.
my problem is I'm artistic and I visualize, I see things that way, but I'm not a mathematician. That's a different kind of brain to do mathematics.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so when I'm in Auburn, when I was in college in veterinary medicine, we had anatomy in the first year. We had to dissect animals and all and learn the muscles, the nerves, the blood vessels, every damn thing, the bones, memorize them. I had a hell of a time, but yet I could see something and remember it physically, but
Hmm.
words, no. But to see a physical specimen stuck with me. Even when I was a little kid, I knew towns by pictures, by the street corners, the gas station on a certain corner, make a turn here. And that was my life, still is. But it did give me a hard time with the what do you call it, the life that I chose, because I had a hard time getting past the grades. And in my sophomore year at Auburn, and I say sophomore in medicine, my fifth year, Dr. Johnson was a little bastard. He was one of these guys who had a white dress shirt on, unbuttoned to show his hairy chest. And in pathology, we had to cut animals apart. And then with cows, we had to climb inside of them and kind of thing. They were big animals, big guts and everything. And he would get pop quizzes after the Auburn football games. And he gave a pop quiz. His idea of a pop quiz, meaning unannounced, 10 questions in pathology.
Oh boy.
He read them to you. You didn't have a chance to read them. He read them to you one time only.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And
Oh boy.
I got it. I had to go back and repeat the college all over again the next year. I didn't
Mhm.
mind it because I learned the same things better.
Yeah.
But this is my first patient when I was working on the boat docks at Clearwater. That was Mama Cat.
Oh
I
wow.
was the only human that could touch her.
Really?
Anytime she wanted to have a litter kitten, she'd come to me, and her belly would be swinging out like this, and she'd be running down the deck. And belly would be just
Oh,
side to side, and we had a hatch built right into our deck house there, a little hatch cut in the bottom, so she'd climb in and out into the tool room. And I had a little box in there, and I had rags and all in there, and then that's where she'd go to deliver her kittens, and I would help tear the afterbirth away from them and everything.
hmm.
And she ate, everything was live. She didn't eat anything dead. We had to give her live fish. They'd be flopping, and she'd grab them by the back and crunch, just paralyze her, crunch, and her eyes be just dilated, crunch. That's what she lived on. And one day, this woman came onto the dock with a wire hair terrier on a lead. And we had a long catwalk coming into the front from the front to the restaurant and into the back of the restaurant there. But she comes around there. Well, unfortunately, she got around to the back end where all the boats are all lined up. Her dog saw a little hatch. Decided to stick his nose inside that hatch.
Oh boy. Oh
That
boy.
in charging out of that dog, she jumped on his back, and the woman let go of it. And the dog ran all the way around the building, all the way off the catwalk. And the mommy cat, was ripping like this the whole time.
Oh.
When she got to the end of the catwalk, she jumped off and just stiffly walked back to the cab. Oh.
Yep.
See
There
the
it
water
is.
tanks in there.
Oh yeah.
And then the little paint shed was right in there too.
Okay.
You see the white doors up there
Mm-hmm.
with the white hatches, French doors, and
Okay.
they're open in that particular picture. You can see they're open. On the one on the right side was the crew's quarters. I mean, the galley side was the sleeping quarters. That's open too. And this is a picture I took of the lens. See that? 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one's down here. You can't see, but that would rotate. This
Yep.
is looking up. It's the boats. That's the boatswain's mate. That's the one I was saying you wouldn't want to meet. Was he got taken off the light and ended up in a buoy tender, and then he retired. And he ended up down a marathon tending the bridges, raising the lower.
Yeah.
This is yours truly. It was 8 miles out there,
Yep.
8 miles from the shore.
That's a great picture.
I was heading back towards shore.
That's a great picture.
In this picture, I had painted the boat on there. That wasn't there, but that shows you how it's out of the water. And then we bring it up to the lower deck, and that's where it would be. And then the water containers and the paint locker up here. There's the outhouse, which is still there. All the rest of this deck's been taken off.
Yeah.
That's still there. That's Hoop. That's me again walking on a low tide reef, which is unusual where the reef actually showed. The one over here is McVeigh. That's the one that met me at the store downtown when I went out there. And of course, that's one we call it. And then that's Hoop. And then that's Bernie. He's one of the hydrographer that was out there.
Wow.
You know, the depth of the waters and so forth. And that's just us swimming in the water. That's the galley.
Oh, wow.
And this is Hoop again. I think that's Hoop. Yeah, and this is McVeigh I was telling you about. And that's Bernie, hydrographer. That's the freezer. The thing for testing the air. That was all the machinery you had that way for direction and strength. And that's me cleaning my whites. This is a social moment. That's me. That's Betty Hollingsworth. I was attended her wedding years later. And that's McVeigh again.
Okay.
They had a motel there, and that's where they're all. And you get a kick out of it for guests only. Interpret that any way you want.
Exactly.
But she was really a sweet gal. Now, this is me dressed for going not on compensatory liberty, but I was not going home. I was going up to Michigan and see a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which I had for about 5 years. And then she gave me a Dear John letter while I was up in the Arctic.
Jeez.
Funny, but I can't, if you see a picture in the real life, she's got to be about 88 years old now. This is the guys coming on you see the fellow on the gangway there?
Yeah.
On the boat first.
Okay.
One of those fellows on there was from Texas, and he would call me a Floridonian. And he was in boot camp with me, and he was quite a character. When he got drunk, he was something else. But
really?
he was on there, and I'm on the light. But anyway, this guy's name is Holloway. And it didn't ring any bells, but at that particular point, he was a bosun's mate, chief. And after I got out of there and was through college and then in practice in South Pasadena, which is outside of St. Petersburg, I had this one woman client come in, and she was probably in her 70s. She had a French poodle, and I was taking care of the poodle. Mm-hmm. It turned out to be a wonderful client. And she even made ceramic poodles for me. And then even a ceramic Christmas tree with lights in it you could plug into the walls. And then she wouldn't take anything for it. That was her Christmas present to me for taking care of her poodles.
Wow.
But it turned out that her husband was in the Coast Guard, and he was the one I had seen back on the Lighthouse.
Really?
So here it is, decades later.
Wow.
Small world.
They're very small. That's amazing.
And this is yours truly again.
What is going on there?
Well, see, the seas are a little bit rough.
Yeah, a little bit. What is the wind blowing there? My gosh.
That was our kind of fun.
Yeah.
Fun when we get bored out there, and the seas are coming out like that, it's beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome.